Come on. And we are live. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of What's Your Story. Today I have a very special guest here with me today. See him around a couple chats here and there. He pops into my streams once in a while. So I'm here today with another guy from north of the border, a little bit. Up with a couple of my Canadian friends. I got Mr. Saddlehourseblues here with me today. Thank you again, sir, for joining me on this gloomy kind of cold day.
Hey, glad to be here.
Awesome. So let's see, everything looks good so far. Stream's running perfectly fine. No dangle clacks happening as of yet. So that's always good. So why don't you tell me what you're vaping on really quick, man?
Right now, today I'm vaping on a couple of different things. I've got some salted buttermilk pecan on my Taiji with the Cali V2 on there. Another setup I'm running right now is the Burt from Unicorn with the new V2.
Oh, the Odium?
RDA, yeah.
Oh, that thing's insane.
I like that thing. I got some key lime pie in there. And then a little mech I'm running today. Here is the Notion.
Oh, look at. Is that the Berserker on there?
It's the Reload.
You're running with James
MTL.
On there.
And
nice.
I really like this little setup. It just works perfectly for me. Doesn't leak at all.
It's a sick
And
little
around
thing.
some Chef's Choice in there.
Very nice.
How about you?
Let's see. I got a few things going this afternoon. I got the Keen with the Blotto with some vanilla bourbon custard in there. And then I got the Luxotic Squonk with the Poet on top of there. And inside of there, I got some Silverback Lola. And then I got my Sigelli 218 with the Rebirth. And inside of there is some Overdrips peanut butter custard.
I still need to get some of that.
It's good. Very good. Then I got my Aspen Modco Monarch Recoil Rebel DHD tip with some Pinkies Up Stuck Up. It's their, the honey dip apples dipped in peanut butter, drizzled with honey, dusted with brown sugar. It's kind of crazy.
Sounds good.
On how much is going on in that liquid. It's very intricate and very insane. And finally, the coup de grace, one of the mods I've probably been using the most since I got the new attachment for it. I got my stacked White Dreamer with the Arden on top, DHD chop top on there.
Nice.
And inside of there, I got some Sad Boy, the Blueberry Jam cookie. Do I have anything else? I don't think I do have anything else rolling at the moment. I think we're all good. Yeah. Awesome. So, I know you've been in here a few times. You kind of see how things go a little bit on this little show I have going on. So, my first question I always ask people that come on here, obviously, since you're vaping now, which is one of the reasons why I'm on here. So, my first question is, how old were you when you, how long were you a smoker for?
Oh, man, I was a smoker for probably 30 years.
30 years? Okay.
I think I snuck my first cigarette when I was about 8. And
really?
I didn't really care for it, but I didn't really start smoking until I was about 14, I guess, here and there. And then by 15, I was smoking every day by 15.
Wow, 15 years old.
Yeah.
How were you introduced to cigarettes when you were younger?
Everybody around me smoked. My father smoked. My aunts and uncles smoked. Grandparents smoked. It just seemed like everybody smoked.
Yeah.
So it was. I never really thought about it. It was just something that was everywhere. Everywhere I saw people smoking.
So it was just a common thing around you. That's what it was.
That's right. Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, wow.
I mean, and back in those days, you could smoke anywhere.
Oh, yeah.
You could smoke in restaurants and buses and everything. So.
The one thing that's kind of still amazes me, where people tell me that back in the day we used to be able to smoke on an airplane, and that shit's insane to me. Because looking at it now, and you're just okay, first of all, if you had anything that had any kind of combustion even close to it, you'd instantly be taken in custody and thrown off the damn plane.
Yeah, I mean, you're all sitting in that small confined space, and there'd be a smoking section, but I mean, you're in a small
where I work now, they used to tell me how, like, back in like this 80s when the company was still, people were still smoking in the office, and like you walk in the door and it's just a big haze through the entire office because people were just smoking left and right all day.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's crazy.
Well, you know, I was in high school in the early 80s, and we could smoke in the school.
Really?
There was a smoking lounge, they called it, which was one of the hallways on the way down to where the shops were for the automotive, auto body classes. And they had ashtrays and benches and everything in there, and you could smoke in there.
That's crazy.
The rule was you had to be 16.
Wow. 16 years old.
I was 15 when I got to high school, and you know, nobody ever said anything. We all just went there and smoked.
Yeah.
A lot. Like, there was always a lot of kids in there smoking. And it was just blue.
Fucking Logan. They grew tobacco in frigid tundra of Canada, harvested by hand and smoked it out of a pipe carved from a moose's antlers. That's something right there. So awesome stuff. So always my next question following up to that, since how were you introduced to vaping? That's really like a really kind of interesting question I ask a lot of people that come on here, because everybody was introduced to it in a different way. Like, so what was your story of how you got introduced to vaping?
It kind of happened to me in stages a little bit. Back, and I'm not even sure what year it was, but my wife and I were on a little thing to Vegas, and we were walking through a mall, and somebody at a kiosk said, "Hey, would you like to try this electronic cigarette?" And this has got to be around 2010 or so, something like that. And I'm like, no, that sounds stupid. So then fast forward a couple of years, and my dad had cancer, and his cancer doctor, and he smoked for a long time, like 50 years or something. And his cancer doctor said, you know, I don't imagine you are in a hurry to quit smoking because it's what you've done all your life. Have you thought of vaping? And his doctor recommended that he try it. So he went out and got a little cheap vape pen thing with a cart on it and some liquid, and he quit smoking that day.
Really? Was it that easy for him?
Yeah, he got some, I think it was about 24 milligram juice in there, and he started puffing on that thing, and you know, he was a pack and a half, 2 packs a day for decades.
Yeah.
And he was faced with a pretty bad scare too, right? Because he had cancer. Then he told me about it, and at that time too, I'd heard a couple articles on the news about vaping, and I thought, well, you know, I'm maybe going to give it a try. And I didn't. For me, it was about saving money, actually, because I'd heard that it was cheaper. And so I went and got one of those ones that looks like a cigarette with the LED
like
on the end.
The cigar-like kind of guys.
Yeah, I puffed that for about a day, and at first I thought, oh, that's not bad. You know, I'm going a few hours without a cigarette. And then towards sometime the next day, the thing started tasting terrible. And I didn't know why, right? It was out of juice. I was burning through the coil. And so I thought, well, that's kind of stupid, and I continued smoking for about a couple of weeks, I guess. And then, you know, I was doing a little research online and seeing that there was all kinds of different devices that were available. So I went to a store, bought a little kit. I enjoyed the flavor right away, and that was it. I haven't had a cigarette since. And that's been about a little over 7 years now.
Wow.
It was 2012 that I started.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, and I mean,
what was that first kit you bought? Do you remember what it was?
The first kit I got was an Anakin.
Okay.
It was a little. little long, kind of squarish looking battery.
Yeah.
And with some, I think they were Aspire tanks on there, like little Aspire Claromizers or whatever they were. Picked up a couple of different flavors of e-liquid. And I liked switching back and forth between them. They both tasted great. Yeah, I mean, that day, I kind of figured, you know, if this tastes as good as it does now tomorrow, and I knew that I actually had to add liquid, not like that first one that I thought was magic or something. I figured I would probably be done. And, you know, a couple of days later, I still had cigarettes laying around the house, and I got rid of them. And I haven't had a cigarette since.
Did you like have any struggles when you were in that transition period? So when you were either you had like a stressful day and you were like, I really need this cigarette. Did you ever have any moments like that, or was the vape when you got that second setup that you got and you were like, okay, I don't need a cigarette anymore? Did you have any moments to where you felt like you could have easily gone back to a cigarette if your willpower would have let you?
I not really, as long as I had my vape, right? I did notice, and my wife pointed it out to me too, that I was puffing on it pretty much all the time. When I first started vaping, it was like I was just nonstop hitting that thing. The one time that I thought maybe the situation might be a little precarious is when we went on a vacation, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to bring my vape with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, you know what? I'll see how it goes, but if I can't bring my vape and I can't get on the plane with it, I might have to pick up some cigarettes. Luckily enough, you know, showed up at the airport, got on the plane, no problems carrying my vape with me, and that was the one time that I thought I might smoke again. Yeah. And it wasn't because the vape was inadequate. It was because I was worried about not having access to it.
Yeah. And it's crazy too, especially back in like the early days of when vaping was around. The airports didn't know how to really regulate how you could travel with it. So everybody was thinking like, am I going to be able to go on an airplane with this? Nobody knew. I don't know if they had like the kind of regulations in place, especially for like batteries and stuff. Still, like how you have to have them with you in a carry-on and not in a checked baggage. I don't know if they had those kind of regulations then that they do now. I'm guessing because I think once they started noticing how often they saw people bringing these, they had to put something kind of regulation, especially with flying, because how common it got. It was like we have to do something to make sure nothing bad happens on the plane.
Right, and at the time I just made sure I had everything with me in my carry-on and in the little bags and stuff they give you to put liquids in.
Yeah.
I disconnected everything and laid it out there, and I was ready to answer questions, but nobody said anything. Either going down to Mexico or coming back, nobody said anything, and so I was worried about nothing. And at the time, that one that I was carrying didn't have a removable battery. It was still that one still that Anakin with the built-in battery.
Awesome. Okay. So yeah, like the way I do it is, if I'm traveling anywhere, I know to have the batteries on me in a carry-on, and then I usually put everything else, and it's like its own little case and everything, and I put that in the check baggage, because whenever I'm traveling, I'm usually checking a bag.
Right.
So usually I know they won't really, if you have anything above like a 1 in 20 ml bottle, or like anything above a 60, really, that you shouldn't have that on your carry-on, because they won't allow you with that on the plane. So I just put all that in the check bag, just in a Ziploc. Like when I travel, I have like mods in their own little thing. I have the atomizers in their own little thing. I have the liquids in their own little bag. So like as long as I can keep everything as separate and disassembled as possible, then I know that they should give me less hassle. So
right.
I don't think I've really had my bag look like my check bag look through. I think it happened once where it's like, I don't know if because usually when they do that, they have to leave a note inside the bag saying we went through your bag kind of thing. But I don't think I ever had that. I don't think. It's just, it might have been because things got tossed around on flight, but because I don't think I ever got the note. But when I opened my bag one time, it looked like it went through.
Okay, yeah.
But
I mean, the one thing I did notice too on mine with the tanks, and I'd been kind of warned about it or read about it a little bit, was the change in pressure was caused.
Make sure there's no liquid in there.
Yeah.
Whole thing. Well, what I found out too is if, like, say if there's liquid in your tank, like an RTA or something, hold it upside down, because then it won't go through the airflow. So it's like, right. I put, like, if I have this in there and I put it in my backpack that I'm carrying on with me, I'll just put it in the bag like that, to where the pressure won't burst and then it won't come through the airflow. I mean, because I don't think it would come through the way you screw it on, because the O-ring and everything. So the pressure should stay sealed from there, at least.
Yeah, and I actually, since then, I've hardly used any tanks at all until just recently. I mean, I dabbled around with them, but I hate how tanks leak. But this last year or so, I've gotten more into tanks again. There's been some new ones come out that don't leak, and I've had good success.
I've just been getting really into RTAs this year. It's great, because some of them, like, you can get the performance you get out of a good dripper.
Mm-hmm.
And to where it's like, okay, I don't need to re-drip every 3 minutes. This is nice.
Yeah.
And you can go out, I can drive without having to fucking drip and drive. It's a great thing.
Yeah, and that's what I use mine for, especially this one. It's a great little travel tank because it doesn't leak. Mm-hmm. Like, I can lay it on its side for hours and there's no problems at all with it.
Definitely. So when you so you got into vaping and all that, then so what was the flavors you said you got a few flavors when you picked up that setup, that Anakin. What were those flavors that you were like, okay, with these flavors I'm vaping right now, cigarettes are done for me?
They were custards mostly.
Really?
That I had access to. Yeah.
Okay.
There was a mixed berry custard. Another one was a strawberries with custard, and for some reason I just grab it. I like the first couple that I tried were custards, and I really liked them, so that was what I kept buying. I kept trying different other kinds of custards with good success. It's funny though, early on, another time that actually I was wondering if I would smoke again is I had these little tiny, like, I think they were 10 mil bottles or something that I had picked up when I was in the city. And I live in a rural area, so there's no vape shops anywhere near me. And I had no idea how long they would last. Right? So I got some and I came home, and then I started running out. And I was like, oh shit, I need to get more of these. And this is before I knew about buying online or anything like that. So I was phoning around trying to find where the nearest place I could get some, and I had to drive about 2.5 hours to pick up some juice. And I thought, and it wasn't even at a vape store; it was at a convenience store in a city 2.5 hours from here. And I thought, if they don't have it, then I'm kind of screwed. I might smoke again. But anyway, I drove down there. They had some. I picked up a bunch, and now I keep stocked up.
Yeah. I always have to make sure I have a bunch of bottles over here. I have literally a drawer full of juice over here, like right underneath me. So it's like I have to make sure I'm stocked at all time, because you never know what the fuck's going to happen with regulation and all that stuff, where it's like you can be like some of these states that you're able to do it one day and then the next day it's gone.
That's just, it's kind of unbelievable what's happening with the regulations and the fear and it's kind of crazy.
It's crazy when it was happening and all this stuff was going on, because you were like, holy crap, I've never seen it this bad before. But then coming through the weeks that it's been, where you've been seeing a lot of these judges overturn these executive orders, and it puts a little bit of pump back in your step, kind of a little bit, because it's, that we're fighting for a good cause, and these people are realizing that these legislators are making decisions incorrectly. They're making legislation incorrectly, and these judges are coming to him like, you have to go through the proper avenues to make something banned. I mean, banning something, you can't just say one day like, nope, no more. You have to go through the proper channels and do it. And these judges were realizing that these weren't the proper channels they were doing it with, And so that's why you've seen a lot of these states overturn a lot of these bans. I mean, look at Massachusetts. They've banned all vaping in general. It wasn't just flavor bans. It was vaping in general. And now, if everything goes as planned, they'll be able to open up their doors on Monday.
Yeah. So there is encouraging pieces of news around that, right? Because it has seemed like there's been a lot of just knee-jerk reaction stuff, and based on misinformation. That's the part that gets me, is that some of these politicians and policymakers are making these snap judgments, and they're obviously not looking at the facts, because if we all know that there's plenty of facts that support vaping as a harm reduction tool that is improving people's health situations. So to just ban it based on, and we're still hearing the crazy stuff that has long since been proven to be,
like the popcorn lung and all that crazy.
The popcorn lung, the formaldehyde. Now I saw one just the other day about teenagers getting their lungs burned, and I saw a doctor mention carcinogens, which has been, I don't know if it's not necessarily proven, but it's been found to have no carcinogens, period, after many studies by many different scientists. And so when they throw that kind of stuff out there again, and people live in a world where it's all just sound bites, and you hear something and you pass it on, and that gets passed on. It's unfortunate, really, because the truth of the matter is that it is a much less harmful way of consuming nicotine, and we'll have the right to do that. I mean,
it's like we should live in a country where the person has the right to put what they want into their body. I mean, it's good to regulate something correctly, but when you're going to regulate something incorrectly and just completely take it off the market when you have no knowledge about it whatsoever, that's just straight up morally wrong. You're putting thousands of people out of a job. You're putting hundreds of thousands of people's lives back at risk because they're going to probably go back to smoking. And it's unbelievable what is going through these legislators' mindsets, to where it's like they think what they're doing is right. It's just...
Yeah. And I mean, I'm all for reasonable regulation.
Yeah, every vapor should.
Let's have a rule that says you can't put anything in there that is known to be dangerous. Yeah. That sounds like a reasonable thing.
Yeah, or having a nicotine cap to where these kids are not going to be able to get their hands on like a 50 milligram, because that's why the kids are doing it. They're getting their hands on it because it's going to fucking give them a buzz.
Yeah. I kind of wonder about that, though, myself. I mean, how often is that going to work? I know when I was young and started smoking, you get a buzz off it, but not again later that day or the next day, right? Like, it only works once or twice.
Yeah, I just want to get the whole thing out of the way where, like, the one thing I wanted to see if these bans did stay in place, to where they think we're doing the thing to get the kids off of vaping, and they're going to make sure, like, they thought that was the regulation that's going to be, to where the teen vaping epidemic that is out there is going to be completely gone. And I would have loved to see that statistic be like it's actually either risen or stayed stagnant, and then they can look at themselves like, what the hell did we just do?
Well, and I think that's a very real, that's a concern that I have right around.
It's a great possibility too.
There's so much push to, strengthen or put regulations in place and bans and things to deal with youth uptake. And my concern is that if some of these things go through, it's going to do two things. One is it's going to limit the access to adults who have every right to get these products. But at the same time, what's going to happen is it's not going to keep youth from doing what youth do. Everybody's got an older cousin or a friend or some way of getting these products, and they're going to continue to. If they want to get them, they're going to get them. You can't legislate youth behavior.
See,
no
that's
matter how
the
much we
thing.
try, and we've always tried, and it never works.
But that's
Forever.
the thing about being a kid too. It's like somebody tells you to do something, and then what's the one thing you want to do? You want to do exactly what the opposite thing is what they want you to do. You want to be
Absolutely.
rebellious. You want to be going against authority because that's part of being young. That's part of being a kid is getting into trouble, having fun, all
Sure.
those things.
I mean, I still remember what it's like to be that young, and I mean, the reality is that kids are looking for dangerous, risky behavior with some sort of wild, crazy payoff, right?
Yeah.
So
what they want.
the more we demonize vaping, the more a lot of young people are going to be looking to try it. What we need to do is, just more focus on actual education that's fact based.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
If we told kids that it was a better way to quit smoking than something like Chamtex or the pills, the patches, the gums, maybe we could just take the fun out of it by calling it what it is. It's just a harm reduction tool.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's not. We're not. I mean, us as consumers, when we're into the hobbyist side of things, of course, picking up new products and stuff is going to be what's fun about it. Getting new coils, getting new liquids, that's going to be the fun part out of it. But kind of showing it for what it is, where just saying this is a harm reduction tool, and just let the hobbyist people kind of figure out the fun part of it on their own. What I guess could possibly help is if you have a straight up kind of education on just the dotted line where harm reduction, get you off cigarettes, that's what this is about, but then just kind of let there be an in mind consensus of what you can do on I'm trying to think how to word this. On somebody who wants to get into this as a hobbyist side, to where you can kind of learn from other people what other people are doing to get into this on a hobbyist side, or kind of.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like how they back in the day when the hobbyist side was created through e-cig forums. That's how the hobbyist side of vaping was created.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at it now, it's like you can find about the hobbyist side of things just by going on YouTube and just typing vape.
Yeah. And I mean, I can kind of see why certain aspects of vaping are appealing to people,
yeah,
including youth, because there are there's a lot of nice shinies, right? There's a lot of toys. There's the clouds, the cloud tricks, all that kind of stuff. I can see why it's appealing, but by trying to limit vaping overall, it's not going to keep it from being attractive to young people, and it's going to hurt adults who will have limited access to these products. So,
or in some states, no access to it at all.
Yeah.
Because you're completely taking it away from them, and it's crazy.
Well, and that's what's going to, with the flavor bans too, right? What worries me about flavor bans is that there will be very few juice makers who can survive in that kind of environment.
Yeah.
And so if there's no juice makers, there's not going to even be people that are able to stay in business producing tobacco flavors. And a concern that I have about this is that in the anti-vaping camps, what they want is not reasonable regulations. They don't want to just get rid of flavors or just get rid of pods or just get rid of this or that. What they seem to want, in my opinion, is to get rid of vaping altogether.
Oh, yeah.
And so if they can attack one aspect of it and get rid of it, that's just something on their checklist. Now they work on the next thing.
Well, because if you think about it, the way they look at it too is let's take away the most impactful thing that somebody needs to use one of these things. And what's the thing that probably the biggest thing that they use to use it is a flavored e-liquid product. You take away the liquid, and the rest will crumble underneath itself. Pretty much like how you're taking, it's pretty much like dismantling a building. If you think about it, you take away the foundation. What does it do? Crumbles beneath itself.
That's right.
And a bottle leak liquid is the foundation of vaping. It really is. You can have a mod, because you see back in the day, people were creating fucking mods out of flashlights. So you think about it, you can create a mod out of anything, practically. And so I wouldn't say that's the foundation of it. The liquid that you need, that the stuff that keeps you away from cigarettes, is the foundation. So you take away the flavored liquid, the rest will go away on its own. And that's their mindset they're trying to keep through this. Let's take away the most impactful thing.
Get rid of the whole thing about, they just want all vaping gone.
Yeah.
And that's kind of dangerous. What they're doing now is they're attacking it piece by piece, and they're using the children, save the children,
as shields.
Because that always works, right? Mm-hmm. That tugs at grandma's heartstrings. Mm-hmm. So she'd be like, whoa. Or people who aren't as educated in the things to do with vaping, mm-hmm. if they can hear that it's to save the children and protect them, then they're going to think, yeah, that's a good thing. But in the meantime, as we all know, hundreds of thousands of people are still dying mm-hmm. from smoking-related illnesses.
I think it's almost like a couple thousand people a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's the real epidemic, people. It really is. It's not the youth vaping. No. It's the thousands of people that are dying each and every day for picking up a pack of cigarettes. That's the real problem.
And a lot of those are young people too.
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
The teen smoking rates are probably
young people are still smoking.
Yeah. And it's crazy. If only we could have a perfect world to where we don't need to worry about governments taking away a healthier alternative. We don't need to deal with having family members that will lose their lives because of smoking-related illness. That would be, obviously, something we would all want.
Yeah. But the reality is, the vaping is working for hundreds of thousands, millions of adults mm-hmm. who are doing it now instead of smoking.
Yeah.
And regardless of what you think about, just quit, or you hear all these things you're just switching one thing for another. Yeah, so what? You're not smoking, which we know is really bad for you. Mm-hmm. And vaping, as far as we can tell, with 10 or 15 years worth of data, isn't nearly as bad for you. So that's a good thing for overall public health. Mm-hmm. We should be accepting it for what it is. It's a step in the right direction.
Yeah, but it all comes down to the government's kind of agenda of actually caring about public health too, which we all know, seeing it day in, day out, that's not their true goal, is for unified public health. Otherwise, this would be promoted instead of demonized.
That's right. And I mean, it's encouraging to see that in the UK that they're doing exactly that. They're promoting it as a safer alternative, something that you should consider doing if you're a smoker.
It's just crazy how literally a body of water can have pretty much create two different worlds in the vaping industry, really.
Yeah.
It's pretty much what it is. It's like U.S., North America, we're fighting for our lives right now to keep vaping around. In the UK, they're putting fucking vape shops in the hospitals. What the hell is going on here? It makes no sense. It's fucking ludicrous.
But what a great message that they're giving to their public, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it all comes back to them having unified health. the unified healthcare too, but that's also a topic for another day because we all know that will never happen in this country for sure. I know you have that in Canada, unified
We
healthcare,
do,
but
and
unified
it's kind
healthcare
of
is
funny.
flawed, but there's so many. It's just there's so many you can go on and on about unified healthcare and benefits and also cons of
Sure,
it too.
sure. But
So
I think like I was wondering like because the citizens in Canada pretty much foot the bill for healthcare, right?
uh-huh.
But we also still get tax dollars from cigarettes, so it's kind of a catch-22, and I think part of the reason that it hasn't moved real quick here is that sure, cancer costs a lot of money to the healthcare system, but a lot of that's down the road, and we get those tax dollars from cigarettes today.
yeah,
So I'm encouraged a little bit. I think we have some reasonable voices here in positions to make these decisions, but not enough. We're still struggling here. Like Health Canada has, they kind of flip back and forth. They've come out and said that vaping is less harmful, and that if you're a smoker, you should consider it. But then they come out with campaigns to try and stop vaping. So we're kind of in a place where they haven't decided how they want to approach it just yet.
where it's like we don't know if Canada's made up their mind yet or not of what their full opinion on it is.
Yeah. There's some mixed messages, but they have regulated it, and it has become legal in the last few years.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing, right? When it was a gray market thing, you never knew where it was going to go. But they did come out and put some regulations in place on nicotine limits and labeling and advertising and some of those things. So in a way, it's got that bit of protection because it is regulated now.
Yeah, who knows what's going to happen with these next few months, really. Because that's what we're going to find out in the U.S. in these next coming months of what the hell is going to actually happen. So I would say 2020 is either going to make the industry or break it. So let's see what happens with that.
I imagine a lot of people, I'm sure a lot of people in the U.S. are concerned about this PMTA stuff that's going to happen, because if you have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to apply for approval, that's going to hurt a lot of
hundreds of thousands.
A lot
and
of people
even
aren't
up to
going
the
to be able
millions,
to do that.
if you think about it.
Yeah. So that is going to really put a stop to the small mom and pop type businesses.
Yeah, all these little small mom and pop shops the reason why they opened is to create a better life for their family and create a better life for others are not going to be around anymore. And that's a sad thing, because all you're going to see is these multi-million-dollar companies left.
That's right.
The ones that aren't in the industry for the right reason, they're just in it to make the most money they can, and then you'll eventually see those people just jump out of the industry because they already made their buck they needed, and now they're done.
Yeah.
So let's try to change the topic around a little bit. I want to learn more about, because we know you have a website. Olivia, if you could post his website down in the chat for everybody to see. You're actually a coil builder. If you haven't seen behind him, he literally has mountains of wire behind him. So I want to know when did you start building your own coils, and what made you want to do that?
I first got started because I was in a vape shop, and they had an RDA in there, and I thought, well, that's different than a tank, so I want to try it. And I got home with it. I put a basic round wire build in there, and the flavor was amazing, like way better than the tanks and stuff I've been using. And I just knew right then and there that it was going to be RDAs going forward for me, and that I would build coils because the flavor was just so good. So I started that day, and I've been building coils almost every day since.
So you
trying
go
trying all the
straight
different kinds.
into going into the elaborate builds, or what was your first like coil you mastered when you started building? Like the one that you want, the most difficult one you wanted to learn first, and how long did it take you to master that?
Oh man. Well, the first one I wanted to master was an Alien,
Mm-hmm.
and I was not able to master it right away.
Uh-huh.
So I was trying all kinds of different sorts of builds in around the same time period. I managed to pull off the frame staple,
Uh-huh.
and the clouds and the flavor off that was amazing. At the same time, I'm still trying Aliens and Staggards and all that stuff. It didn't take too long, but I mean, a few weeks of trying all these different things until I got pretty good at the Aliens. And then the Staggards, and once I hit a tipping point where I was able to start being able to produce any of them, and then make them a little faster, and the quality kept improving, and the whole time I really enjoyed doing it, and I still do. So now I make all kinds of different coils, and I still enjoy making them.
What would you say was the most like complicated coil for you to make? That like the one that you make regularly now. What would you say you had? Was Aliens the one you had the hardest time learning? Or was there one that was like you had to do time and time again before you even got close to being down and doing it?
Yeah, I mean the Aliens. Once I hit my stride with them, I can now make them flawless every time. The one that I struggle, well, not necessarily struggle with, but there are some builds that just take a lot more prep time. I do one that's it's a staggered staple Ivy coil. So it's got staggering on the frames with a fusing across, and then there's some ribbon wire standing on end inside there with a wavy pattern to it. And that one, it's a much slower build. It takes a lot more prep time, and you have to really.
Well, those are like the kind of coils that you see people posting on Instagram for like those coil shots and all that stuff, like the elaborate coil shots too.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I can build some of those and have played around with them, but I don't do much I don't do a lot of the coil porn stuff. I'm more interested in building coils that provide a great vaping experience that you can use over and over.
Do those Ivies create that kind of vape?
They do. The Ivies are my new favorite go-to coil.
Really?
Yeah. And I think part of the reason I like them so much is there is actual space holes in the coils. So the juice from the wick can come right through. So the flavor on them is great, and they ramp up really fast.
Okay.
So if you like...
Well, yeah, because you think about it too, like you're using a lot of smaller gauge wire. You're not using any larger gauges that the ramp up's not going to be. It's going to be a little bit slower because you're using the bigger gauge wire.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're using like a shit ton of smaller gauge wire to create that bigger size coil, the ramp up's still going to be pretty quick because it's just a lot of small wires being heated up instead of a lot of small wires and then a big wire.
Yeah, and I mean, if you think about like an Alien with its 3 cores and then it's wrapped around there nice and tight, you've got your ridges and stuff in between the Alien wraps where juice can sit, but it's still a solid coil. Whereas on the staggered Ivies, you've got these big holes like this where you can actually see the wick through the coil.
Mm-hmm.
So the vapor has a lot more places to come through the coil instead of just kind of the juice soaking through. It can
go right to it, and then the moment you fire it, the heat will come straight from the wick and not have to go through the kind of dense amount of a coil to go through and then still produce a dense vape. So it's like with those kind of coils, I feel like you would still get a dense vape no matter what.
Yeah, you do.
Okay.
Really dense, and with the low mass on them, they heat up, they ramp up real fast. So I've got a couple in here actually right now. I got a 4mm 5 wrap of these staggered Ivies, and
they're awesome. Probably.
Yeah, I love them.
That is great. So what made you want to start how long were you building before you got to the point where you're like, okay, I'm getting pretty confident with my craft, and you started thinking of, I'm going to create a website and sell these. How long were you building for to when you got to that point?
I've been building probably for 2.5 years or so for myself, and then a few shops that I frequent when I go into the city asked about them, and just from talking with people, and they wanted to start carrying them, so I started producing some coils for them, and I think we launched our website at the beginning of 2015. And originally I was just doing coils on the website, and then we, because I love mech mods and collecting mech mods and all that, we started carrying a few of those as well, and now it's still mostly mech and coil heavy on our website, but we carry some tools and other things that go along with vaping.
Yeah, let's go look at the web. So let's do a quick little look at the website. So you got a lot of interesting stuff on here. I know you're a really big fan of Unicorn, obviously.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is awesome because Trevor's such a good dude.
He is.
And he puts out such a good product.
I love their products. They make great stuff.
Yeah. Definitely. And so let's see, all the tools you have on here. It's kind of when you were deciding what to put on your website, what did you kind of narrow down to, okay, I'm gonna have this on my website, I'm gonna have this on my website, deciding what you were gonna carry on there? Did you go off of you were trying to maybe think of, okay, I was gonna kind of go off of what my taste is a little bit, and thinking that, okay, somebody else is obviously going to have the same taste as I do, and you just kind of go off that, or were you kind of looking around the market a little bit and seeing, these are popular, I know people are going to enjoy this is popular, I know people are going to enjoy this? What was your mindset by picking some of the items you were going to sell on your website?
The items mostly are based on what I think is a good value and what I like. That's why there are so many mech mods. I don't really look around too much for what's hot, what's selling, what everybody's thing is. I like to carry classic items. Now, there's a few items that we carry as well that people have asked us to. We've had customers that have been with us for quite a while now, and they kept asking, oh, are you going to carry this? For example, we carry the Lyra. We carry two different pods, right? And this is one of them. And we carry it because I actually like it. I don't mind this little device. But mostly the items are ones that I enjoy, ones that I use, that I have put through their paces and can explain to customers, that are going to last a really long time. Yeah. So that's pretty much my criteria. I think it has to be a great product.
For sure. Definitely. So what would you say, as a builder, what would you say your favorite kind of coil to build is? If you had one that you I enjoy having this build so much that this is my go-to, I'm going to stick with this. Or if I could pick only one coil to build and vape for the rest of my life, I would choose this. Well, which one would you think that would be?
Staggered fuse Clapton.
Okay.
Yeah. I think they provide a great vape. They're a durable coil, right? You can, they're nice and sturdy, so you can put a nice tight wick in there, which I enjoy. I like a nice tighter wick. They can be cleaned several times. They last a long time, and the flavor's great. Right. So that if I could only have one coil, that'd probably be the one I would go with.
Yeah, I'm looking at them right now, and they just look fan-fucking-tastic. Holy shit. I'm looking at the Ivy right now. I'm like, holy shit. There's a lot going on in there.
Yeah.
And I could definitely see what you mean now by having those spaces in there. Definitely.
Yeah. You get a lot, it goes space right through to the wick.
Yeah, you would drip it, it'll go right through those holes and go right to the wick.
Yeah.
That is very, very interesting. Awesome stuff. Let's see. Now, the real question is here, since you like mech mods, if you had to pick one mech mod to where you would say, "Yep, I'm good with this," what would you say? Well, what would be your go-to mech mod out of anything, any mech mod you own right now? What would you be like go-to of all time and say, "I'm grabbing this. This is like, I can ride or die." Like, you can always tell it's going to be dependent, and it'll stand the test of time to where it's always going to perform the way you want it.
If I had to run out of the house right now and only grab one mod, I don't know. I might not leave the house. I might go down with the ship. But if you forced me to pick one, I'd probably go with the Vert.
Okay.
Right. The reason I like the feel of the switch and the way it's carved out here, right? I don't know if you can see that, but with that shape, it's just such a comfortable mod to use.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I love this thing.
Definitely. That is awesome.
But if no one's looking, I'm gonna grab my Notion too.
Just if nobody's looking, just put that hide that somewhere to where like, okay, I'm gonna come out with 2 mods.
Yeah.
That's awesome stuff, man. Awesome. See, I don't know if I have so many mech mods I fucking like. So we're like picking one.
Tough, right?
I mean, because it all depends on what you want to vape that day. Because or you're just like looking for something that's going to be durable, or something that's going to be just, you want just a hefty piece of metal in your hand. That's like, if I know I want something that's going to be durable and like I know I'm going to be with it all day and I'll have batteries with me, one of the ones I'll pick up the Keen, because it's
right,
comfortable, durability, and it hit every time I press that button. It's hitting the way I want it.
Yeah.
And that's what you expect out of a mod. That's what you want out of your perfect vape.
Well, that's the thing that, overall what I really like about mechs is they work every time, and they're going to last, right? Like, it is a bit more for the hobby vapor, for sure. You gotta, kind of learn some things along the way before you're ready for them. But I'm sure this will last longer than I do.
Yeah, probably.
Well,
the thing is, you can have a mod, if you take care of it, these technically can last forever.
Yeah.
If you care for it and make sure everything's taken care of, this, like you think about it, this will last longer than you. I mean, it's made out of metal. It'll be
keep them clean, and they're going to work, 10 years from now exactly the way it did the day you got it.
Yeah.
Whereas what I find, I have a lot of regulated mods that I've picked up over the years that don't work anymore.
Yeah, just either
didn't work after a couple months.
Either the board fries or just something with
juice in them, and
yeah. And then, I don't know, if I had to choose, I'd stick with mechanical.
I just like the feel of a mech tube too, right? Like, I have a few mechanical boxes as well, but I like the tubes.
Yeah, mechanical boxes still hold a place in my heart. Like, I like the Death Wish series boxes, like the Infected. I can't leave the Warlock's Hammer out of it, because it's just, if you're looking for an amazing 21700 parallel box, or you can get them in series, it's just like a go-to thing if you're just looking for, like, a parallel box is like my other kind of, like, if I know I want something with a little bit more battery life that is gonna be like hit like one of these mechs, I always grab for like a parallel box, because that's something you can possibly, if you're not vaping as much as I am, you can use that thing all day.
Yeah, I have a couple boxes I enjoy using too. The Hexome is one.
Well,
I really like my Hexome.
That's like a vintage.
Yeah. I mean, that's, again, one of the reasons I like it is just always works.
Yeah.
And it's easy to use. It's basic. It gives me the
simpler is better with vaping, in my opinion.
I agree.
You don't need all the intricate stuff. I mean, I like a DNA board here and there, but sometimes there's too much going on in there to where it's like you press one thing wrong and it ruins the entire vape. Because you put one setting in there that's a little bit off, it completely changes it.
Yeah.
So it's like stick it to something unregulated to where it's like You know, you put it down the day before and you pick it up, you know it's going to hit exactly the same like it did the day before.
Yeah.
And that's what you look for, really. You don't want any changes that are going to be complicated. You don't want anything that's going to be in your head to where you're like, oh, crap, I had to fuck with this thing again. God damn it. It's just something simple like that. Simplicity, in my opinion, is better.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. For actually vaping, I like the simple stuff. I have some DNA boxes here that I use for checking ohms.
Yeah, like on my...
They're so accurate.
Anything on my DNA is I use these. I honestly use them more for building on rather than vaping on, to be honest.
Yeah.
So that's just one of those things where it's like, doesn't bother me really. It's still getting used. It's not like it's just sitting on the side collecting dust. I'm still going to use it. Just it might not be as an everyday carry to where you're going to bring it out with you every day, but it's still, you're putting it through its paces.
So what did you say which one you would run with if you had to grab one and go, and you could only grab one? What would it be?
Right now,
You said
it would be
15, right?
right now it would be this, because this is the setup that right now I can just leave anywhere with it and I'll be good. This
And what do you have on there? Is that the Blotto?
Yeah, Blotto has become my favorite RTA of all time, easily. I love the airflow and I love the build deck on it. It's a little bit tricky fitting those 3mm guys in there, but you can make it work, and when you make it work, it restricts it a little bit more than a 2.5, but the vape you get off it is just fantastic. I still like that little restriction you get out of it, because I'm more of like I like a little bit more restricted once in a while. Like, mostly if I had to pick, I'd pick something more restricted than a crazy airy RTA. But this is like my perfect RTA, just the perfect airflow. And it's just, I like the look of it, even though it's massive. The bubble tank makes it look insane, but I just like the way it looks.
Yeah, yeah.
And it just worked for me. So if I had to pick
I haven't got one of those myself yet, but
Blotto is amazing. It's amazing.
Have you tried the M25? Have you got one of those from QP?
I need to get my hands on M25. I've been wanting to. It's been on my list to get. So eventually I will. I've wanted to get my hands on a couple of QP's things. So eventually I'll get around to it.
Yeah, that makes some really good stuff.
Like, I want to get the Gata.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like still want to get my hands on a Cali. It's just, I have a bunch of stuff that I have like a log of things I want to get. It's just, I don't have all the money in the world to buy everything at once. Yeah. Otherwise, everything.
Well, there is so much.
Yeah, there's so much shit that I want to get. It's ridiculous.
And that's one of the things I really like about vaping, is that there's such a wide range of products. There's something for everybody.
Oh yeah.
Like, there's several things I like quite a bit, but I know, for example, my wife likes something different than most of the stuff I use, but there's something for her too. Like,
Yeah.
She's got a few devices that she really likes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Ricky, go to Lucid RDA. He has a fucking like 40. I think most of his mods he had on his website that he designed are like 40% off on his website right now. So Ricky, if you're looking for a good mech, he has come out with some fantastic ones. He's got the Keen, he's got the Dreamer, he's got the Notion. He has a mech for everybody, really. You can either get you can get the Dreamers in stack if you like series. I mean, soon he's going to be having Keen stacks, and it's going to be, I'm waiting for that.
Yeah.
Because the moment that black Keen stack, this is getting transitioned. It's going to grow a little bit, and I'm ready for it. It's gonna be awesome. So
Do you use your stacks quite a bit?
What's up?
Do you use your stacks quite a bit?
I want to say I have an addiction when it comes to stack mods, but it's kind of a problem, and it just continues to go into
it looks like it.
A nightmare of just craziness. I don't know what it is. Something about a stack tube is just, to me, that's again it's not a practical vape. To be honest, like, going on public with it is not an ideal thing to do.
Yeah, they're not very pocket friendly.
Oh no. And it's not something you can easily put in a cup holder either.
Yeah.
But for my style, when I'm sitting at home and just chilling, that's the perfect thing for me. Because I like having a heavier mod. So it's just one of those things to where that fits my perfect time, like my perfect nick that I am using. I don't know.
Yeah, I use a few. I have a couple Death Wish stacks, and I have the Hellhounds and the Hammer of Gods.
Uh-huh.
I like those on my desk because nice big heavy mod sitting there. I don't have to worry about batteries for the day, and yeah.
Yeah,
I don't do it with a ton of clouds.
Yeah, it's like once you get the power like that, it's like it's hard to go back once in a while when you do that, so I love it. So we're kind of winding it down here, guys. Again, I'd like to thank Shane for coming on. It's always been a pleasure talking to you. I know we've talked in chats a little bit here and there, but having you come on and being able to pretty much let your voice come out instead of being in chat, kind of give other people to have the chance to find out who you really are, kind of thing. And that's what I would love doing about this show, is bring people on who really haven't really had the opportunity to, I don't want to say voice what they have to say, but give them the opportunity. And that's something I love to do. So
I think it's so cool what you're doing here.
Yeah, it's fun. I like it. I wouldn't trade it for the world, to be honest. It wouldn't. It's what I love doing. It's where I want to be at this time. It really is. So is there anything that you want to tell anybody, that maybe anything new you're going to be coming up with on the website that people should keep an eye on? Possibly new products going to be on the website soon for people to keep an eye out?
Yeah, check back. I mean, we're always adding new mechs and coils sometimes. Coming out with some new coils probably. We try to stay current, so
yeah.
I think we do a reasonable job, but there's so much stuff. Yeah. There'll always be new things that we have, and there'll be things that I like and I enjoy. And
that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I think that's where we're going to end it here. Again, Shane, thank you for coming on. Everybody in chat, thanks for hanging out with us. And we'll see you on Monday with the Ohmies, our little Halloween special. We're going to have Rescue D-Liquid on with us, so that's going to be fun. And then Wednesday, don't forget to tune in back here, 7:30 Central, for me and Sean for another episode of What's in the News. And then next Saturday, you can catch me back over here with another very special guest on What's Your Story. So again, guys, thank you very much for tuning in, and we will see you all next week. Bye.
Thanks, Corey.
Oh, it didn't click. Click it.